a place of suffering. They say a place filled with death never truly empties, and if that's true, then Waverly Hills Sanatorium is more alive than ever. Perched on a lonely hill in Kentucky, this massive looming structure was once a hospital for tuberculosis patients in the early 1900s. Back then, there was no cure, just experimental treatments that often did more harm than good. Thousands of men, women and even children spent their final days here, their bodies eaten away by disease, their minds slipping into delirium. The staff tried to keep spirits high, but death was an everyday occurrence. And to keep it hidden, they used a tunnel beneath the building, a long, dark passage where the dead were secretly transported out of sight. It was called the body chute. They thought it would prevent panic. Instead, it created something far worse. After the hospital shut down in the 1960s, Waverly Hills stood abandoned. But it wasn't empty. Visitors began reporting strange encounters, whispers when no one was there, unseen hands brushing against them in the dark, and shadowy figures lurking in doorways. Some believed these were the souls of former patients, trapped in the place where they had suffered. Others were convinced something far more sinister resided within these walls. One of the most chilling locations in the building is room 502. The story goes that a young nurse took her own life here after discovering she was pregnant out of wedlock, a scandalous fate in her time. They say she was overwhelmed with despair, that she had no way out, but some believe she never left. Many who enter the room report feeling a sudden wave of nausea, as if something unseen is pressing down on their chest. Others claim to have seen a figure standing by the window, a woman in an old nurse's uniform staring blankly at them before vanishing into thin air. Would you dare step inside? Not all spirits at Waverly Hills were once human. There are those who have seen it, lurking in the darkest corners of the building, crawling along the ceilings, watching, waiting. They call it the creeper. It moves in unnatural ways, scuttling across walls like an insect, its long, twisted limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. Those who have encountered it describe an overwhelming sense of dread, as if it feeds on fear itself. And when it comes for you, you won't even hear it. Not all spirits in Waverly Hills are terrifying. Some just want to play. Deep in one of the long, empty hallways, visitors have reported encountering the spirit of a little boy named Timmy. No one knows exactly who he was, but many have seen his presence in the same way. A small ball rolling across the floor as if pushed by invisible hands. Some have even tried bringing their own toys, only to watch them move on their own. But before you let your guard down, remember this. Some say Timmy isn't alone. Something else lingers in that hallway, watching those who come to play. With so many reports of ghostly encounters, it's no surprise that Waverly Hills has become one of the most investigated haunted locations in the world. Ghost hunters, paranormal experts and television crews have captured terrifying evidence. Electronic voice phenomena, shadow figures moving on their own, and even full-bodied apparitions caught on camera. Skeptics say it's all just tricks of the mind, but those who have stepped inside Waverly Hills at night, they know better. Waverly Hills isn't just a building, it's a graveyard with walls. Some go in and feel nothing, others leave with something following them. The question is, would you dare spend a night inside? In the heart of Louisiana stands the Myrtles Plantation, a mansion built in 1796. Its white pillars and grand architecture, a stark contrast to the darkness that lingers within. They call it one of the most haunted houses in America, a place where spirits roam freely, their stories carved into the very walls. Some say at least 12 ghosts remain trapped here, reliving their tragic past. But one spirit stands above the rest. A woman wronged, a woman seeking revenge. Her name was Chloe. Chloe was a young slave on the plantation serving the wealthy Woodruff family. But one mistake sealed her fate forever. She was caught eavesdropping on her master's conversations, and for that she was brutally punished, her ear cut off as a warning. Forced to wear a green turban to hide her mutilation, Chloe became obsessed with revenge. She waited for the perfect moment. One evening, as the Woodruffs celebrated a birthday, Chloe poisoned a cake intended for the family, hoping to make them sick, just enough to show her power. But she made a fatal miscalculation. Within hours, the plantation owner's wife and 2 children were dead. The other slaves, terrified of their master's wrath, took matters into their own hands. They dragged Chloe outside, strung her up from a tree, and left her lifeless body swinging in the wind. Her corpse was thrown into the river, but Chloe never truly left. To this day, Chloe is still here. She is seen wandering the halls, her green turban unmistakable. Guests have captured her in photographs, a shadowy figure standing in doorways, watching. And sometimes she watches back. But Chloe isn't the only soul bound to this house. Some believe the spirits of the murdered Woodruff family remain trapped inside a single object, a mirror. According to legend, after their deaths, the staff forgot to cover the mirror, a practice meant to prevent spirits from becoming trapped inside. And so the souls of the mother and her 2 children were sealed within the glass. Even after centuries, guests report handprints appearing on the mirror, prints that cannot be wiped away. Some say they see faces staring back at them, eyes filled with sorrow or rage. The Myrtles Plantation is never silent. Footsteps echo in empty hallways. Phantom children laugh in the middle of the night. A piano plays by itself, its eerie tune drifting through the mansion. Some guests wake to find a woman standing at the foot of their bed watching them. Others feel ice-cold hands gripping their shoulders, only to turn and find no one there. And some don't stay long enough to find out more. A shaken former guest describes waking up to the sound of whispering in her ear only to find the room empty. Today, the Myrtles Plantation is a bed and breakfast, inviting guests to spend the night if they dare. Some come for the history, others for the thrill of the paranormal, but many leave before the night is over. What would you do? Would you spend the night in one of the most haunted houses in America? Los Angeles, a city of glamour, wealth and secrets. Perched on a quiet hill in the luxurious Los Feliz neighborhood sits a once stunning mansion, its grand facade now faded, its halls empty. But this house is more than just abandoned. It's a crime scene frozen in time. On the night of December 6, 1959, Dr. Harold Perelson, a wealthy physician, walked into his master bedroom, stood over his sleeping wife, and brought a hammer crashing down on her skull. She never woke up. But he wasn't finished. Moments later, he crept into his teenage daughter's room and struck her as well. She survived, barely. Stumbling out of the house, she screamed for help, waking the neighbors. By the time police arrived, they found Dr. Perelson dead, a bottle of acid clutched in his hand. What made a successful doctor, a devoted father, commit such a gruesome crime? No one knows. And the strangest part? After that night, no one ever lived in the house again. The mansion was never sold. It was never torn down. Instead, it sat untouched, exactly as it was the night of the murders. For decades, neighbours whispered about the eerie silence surrounding the property. Curious visitors who dared to peek inside reported something even stranger. Dining tables still set with dishes, Christmas presents still wrapped under the tree. It was as if the family had just vanished, leaving everything behind. And then there were the voices. People passing by late at night claimed to hear whispering coming from inside, the faint sound of a woman sobbing. But the house was empty. Or was it? Locals believe something still lingers in the Perelson house. Some say it's the spirit of Lillian Perelson, the wife who never saw death coming. They claim to have seen her silhouette standing in the window, a lifeless stare fixed on the city below. Others believe Dr. Perelson himself never left, that his guilt, his rage, still haunts these halls. Paranormal investigators report cold spots, objects moving on their own, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps following them. And then there are those who claim the house itself is alive, watching, waiting. Dr. Perelson never left a note. No warning, no reason for the crime. But people have theories. Some believe financial troubles pushed him to the edge, mounting debt, lawsuits and pressure from his high society lifestyle. Others whisper about something more sinister, a supernatural force that took hold of him, driving him to madness. Over the years, ghost hunters have tried to capture proof of the mansion's haunting. Some have recorded chilling EVP sessions, voices whispering, "Get out." Others have seen doors slam shut by themselves, dark figures standing at the top of the staircase. And some never make it past the front door, overcome with an intense, paralyzing sense of dread. In 2016, the house was sold for the first time in over 50 years. But even with its new owner, it remains abandoned, a hollow shell of a forgotten tragedy. Some believe it's cursed, others say it's haunted. All we know is that the Perelson Mansion remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in Los Angeles. Would you dare step inside?